Okay.
Okay, great. This is Glenn McKnight from the Virtual School of Internet Governance, and we have as our special guest today, Raoul Plommer. And Raoul is going to talk about his organization, and they've basically worked in tandem with the Open Knowledge Finland to create an online course on GDPR. So I'm just going to turn it right over to you, and welcome to the call.
Thanks, Glenn. Happy to present this presentation on the course that is unfortunately temporarily offline right now, so we can't actually go through it. But I will quickly go through the main rights that the course covers, and hoping in the next couple of months I will get the course back online and people can go and practice their knowledge on the GDPR there. Okay. So basically, this was an online learning course on the GDPR. We called it the GDPR for Citizens. Next slide, please. And it was partially funded by the Beyond the Net funding program and partially by the Finnish Foreign Ministry. Next slide, please. Yeah, and we made two versions of the course. There was digirights.info, which is the English version, and digioikeudet.info, which is the Finnish version of it. And that was a requirement by the Finnish Foreign Ministry that this Finnish half is made as well. And yeah, it wasn't actually that bad after we got the project material done in English. And yeah, it was basically Open Knowledge Finland and who made this, and the Finnish Internet Society was sort of viewing the work while it was happening. Next slide, please.
Well, just before I turn to the next slide, so was this a grassroots demand for this type of course, or did you get together with a group and said, hey, the GDPR is coming down, we need some kind of awareness for citizens? What was it, chicken and an egg?
I think it was that we got somebody tipped us off about a Beyond the Net funding.
Okay.
While we were doing this course, I mean, when we were still thinking about it, and we applied for it and got the funding, so we got to work on this. But yeah, it was basically the idea of it first, and then when we saw some funding, we applied for it.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was the timeline. It wasn't quite as smooth as this. It was really finished in February of 2019. But yeah, I think it was a big effort on the whole team to write those modules and have the workshops for different kinds of audiences and so on. Next slide, please. So that's enough about the project itself. Basically, I'm not going to cover the rights that we have, and they are important because our personal data is everywhere. The data is becoming more and more numerous and more detailed, and it can be really used for bad and good. So that's why we at the Open Knowledge Finland and My Data movement, we really felt that people should have really as much control over their own data as possible. And you can see all the sectors here that already have all this. Well, that basically covers the whole society. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are the key rights that the GDPR brings. There's 8 of them, and each of these is really an important right. Some may be more important and useful than others. Like, for example, to access your data. That is very, very useful to be able to do that. And also that now you actually gained right to rectify your data as well. if some of the countries, even in Europe, didn't have that. Next slide, please. Okay, so yeah, the first of these is the right to obtain information on the processing of your personal data. So when a controller is in possession of this data, it must inform you of the identity, who is the controller, the reason why your personal data is necessary to them, how long it will be necessary to them, whether it will be disclosed to other parties, and how you can exercise your rights within regard to that personal data. Next slide, please. You also have right to inspect your data. So the previous one was the right to know of the processing, but you can also, if a controller has data of you, and you might not always know they do, you can ask the controller to what is the source that they got your data from. That can be sometimes really quite important if you want to track down who is leaking your data without your permission. Yeah, they also have to tell how long this personal data will be necessary, if it's been disclosed or will be disclosed to whom, whether it's been transferred to outside the European Union, and if yes, how has it been protected? They actually have to tell you of some sort of security steps that have been taken so that your data is safe when it's, especially when it's moving outside of EU. Also, whether your data is being processed automatically, and if yes, how does the process function? And you can how you can exercise your rights with regard to this personal data. Next slide, please. So if you come across inaccurate personal data concerning yourself, you can request the controller to rectify it. And rectification means basically that inaccurate data can be corrected and deficient data can be supplemented. So if there's more data that you feel that the company or organization should have, you can give them more data about you, or you can correct the previous data that they have on record. The rectification, like pretty much all the other rights, is free of charge. If the request is unfounded or unreasonable, the controller has the right to decline this request or charge a fee for it. But normally that's not the case. Next slide, please. Yeah, and this is also perhaps one of the most contentious issues about the GDPR or its rights. The controller is required to erase your personal data when you require it, and if you have one of the following situations happening. So the first one, the controller no longer needs your data for their original purpose. This is very often the case that they just leave their data in their database without ever removing it. Right. So it's good to be able to like tell them that, okay, you don't need it for that purpose anymore, please delete it, and they have to comply. If you withdraw the consent you've given, you might have felt with an organization that it was good for them to have your consent to process your data, but you might not think so anymore. So you can withdraw that consent, and mostly that is a really good blanket reason to get your data deleted, basically just by withdrawing your consent. You can also object to the processing of your data if there's no justifiable reason for that processing. Or you object to the processing of your data for purposes of direct marketing. Yeah, you can, for example, sign one of these contracts where sort of there's like a supplement consent given to have direct marketing done to you. But you can always withdraw that later and still keep the original service. Or your data has been processed unlawfully. For example, they should never have it in the first place. You haven't given consent for giving that data to them. It can also be raised. or the law requires your data to be erased. There's a good few cases when law stipulates that. Or your data has been collected on the basis of your custodian's consent in connection with the provision of information society services. And that includes online shops, social media, for example. Next slide, please.
Maybe, let me interject one quick question for you. So when we have a data breach, for example, the large, there's numerous examples like Yahoo, Flickr accounts were violated. Now, are they obligated to inform you as an individual whether your file is one of the files that were actually seconded, or?
Now they are. Yes. Now they have this obligation.
Okay.
I believe it's actually, I think it was as little as 72 hours. Don't remember that by heart right now, but I can check that for you.
Okay, great.
No. Okay. You also have the right to have your personal data transferred to another controller. This is called data portability. The personal data can only be transferred if the processing of the personal data was based on your consent or an agreement between yourself and the controller. The data was processed automatically, or it concerns you and was supplied by you, or the transfer of the data will not adversely affect the rights and freedoms of third parties. But yeah, essentially, you're able to pull your data of a service and then deliver it to another service using that same data. Of course, very common it is that different platforms don't really use the same kind of data. So I think this can very often be sort of a moot right. But I think it will be something that will become more important in the future when they are able to standardize these platforms a bit more. Next slide, please. You can restrict the processing of your personal data. That means that you can basically pick and choose which parts of your data you don't want to be processed. For example, if you consider the data to be inaccurate or it's being processed unlawfully, but you don't want them erased completely, if the controller no longer needs your data for the original purpose, but you need it for the establishment, just exercising defense of legal claims, for example. You've objected to the processing of your personal data, but the final decision is still pending. So you can already, while they're still deciding, you can already tell them to stop processing your data. They have to do it immediately. Next slide, please. This is the last one of them. I think also will be becoming more and more important in the future. But it's the right to decline to be subjected to a decision based solely on automated processing. So only computers or algorithms trying to evaluate decisions about you. And it's permitted if the decision is necessary for entering into or performance of a contract between you and the controller. For example, insurance companies are common examples of this kind of automated processing. They have increasing amount of algorithms trying to calculate how risky a person you are. If the decision's been approved in an act applying to the controller, or you've given your specific consent to the decision, for example, with a signature or two-factor authentication. And at the minimum, you have the right to demand human involvement in decisions that concern you. Like, for example, you can contact an insurance company and make them re-evaluate your case, for example. Mm-hmm. And I think they also would actually have to give you some reasoning behind the algorithm that's evaluating you. I think that's something they also have to do. Next slide, please. Now, so basically we've covered the rights And to really exercise these rights, one needs to make SARs, which are subject access requests. So they're basically data requests, well, little broader, but still. There's been quite a few issues about making these data requests. One of them, really the first problem, is to find the contact details of their data protection officers. And some cases you really can't find them. There's an example, well, now that's like a 3 years old example, but that was already, I mean, they were late in trying to comply with GDPR. And I think it did take them a fair amount of time, like we're talking months in any case. But you couldn't find the physical address of their DPO either. There's different procedures for identifying data subjects. Now, like basically every organization has their own type of identifying it, what information is needed, and they will inform you of it at least after you send them your initial data request. Just a lot of companies and organizations still don't seem to be GDPR compliant. We were doing a good amount of data requests with this group, Open Knowledge Finland, and there was one quite a peculiar one where a person was seeing ex-wife's recent purchases on the store card. And yeah, that can be quite pervasive or like intruding. shouldn't have any access to that. And that was like 3 years after they divorced.
Wow.
Yeah. And you could just identify yourself with no PIN. Only the credit card number was enough to do this.
That's an example of stalking.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could have been used to that for sure. Yeah. Next slide, please. So here we have this example of Pinterest, just showing you, and this is like this was a 3 years old case, but I have it here because it quite well shows you like what kind of discrepancies with complying with the law there were. Now, this was basically, if you go to the page on Pinterest and you see the privacy policy page, you were encountered with this page. And both these contact us links were going to the same place. If you wanted to see the privacy policy, like you didn't see where it really is. This is by no means complete what they had. Next slide, please. So if I wanted to make a data request to Pinterest or subject access request, this was the place that the privacy policy guided me to. And it says here it's like so what do you need help with? Next slide, please. These were the options. Getting into my account, using Pinterest or edit settings, reporting something, business accounts, promoted pins for businesses. Great. That doesn't sound like anything like privacy policy. Next slide, please. So I took the most ambiguous one, with reporting something. And this is the choices that it gives you. And funnily enough, harassment or privacy are just on the same path. Next slide, please. So we selected the harassment or privacy, and most of this text here is about harassing. There's actually nothing about privacy here. And so you still need to go to this next, you need to press the button, I still need help. Yes, this big button, like great. Next slide, please. So now it finally brings up something useful, but I don't know. I mean, you'd think that this was already quite a maze to come through here, and here you can actually make your data request, but there were no other places to do so, and that's very illegal these days. Was then too, but at least they fixed it. Next slide, please. So yeah, one does not simply make a data request. That is actually the sort of the most arduous part of sort of trying to find out on exercising your rights concerning the data that you have given. Next slide, please. So what we did in the module, we made these examples of different kinds of subject access requests. As you can see, you have this is like one page, like an A4 letter, and it basically it tells you which law in the GDPR it's referring to, and basically everything highlighted with yellow is for the details of this particular case. So mostly your details and the recipient's contact details. And yeah, this particular one has 6 different requests really, and by all means you can send them all at once. And I've put these requests. It's at the end of this presentation. There's a link that you can go to, and you can have a look at these requests by yourself. And yeah, feel free to use them or share them to the whole world. It'd be great if people make these SARs, because that's really the only way for the GDPR to become applied more and more. And if people don't make these complaints or data requests even, these things won't change. Even the law is there. These data protection authorities in all the countries, they actually expect for a complaint before they start acting on an organization's non-compliance with the GDPR. Next slide, please.
Yeah, before we go to that, so when you actually delivered the course, was this one of the assignments that each person who was in the course to actually go through this? And I'm curious on what the results were with some. Was there some controllers more responsive and they had an automated system, or there was, were you marking time, how long it took for them to respond, or which organizations were more responsive?
Yeah, we actually did collect. We actually had a date. I think that was the day just after the GDPR had come into effect, and we did these data requests to several different companies, and yeah, we found out that not all of them would even reply. Some of them would be asking for more information, you know, their own identity for identity purposes, but generally they did reply. Yeah, and I think some of these big tech companies have really sort of circumvented this in a way that they give this automated report of all the data that they have of you. But I think that's just like not complete at all. Okay. Like if you're thinking Facebook, it doesn't give you all the data they have of you. Like, for example, how are they profiling you? That's something that I don't think anybody can pull off them. That's like, I'm quite sure that's like a business secret, you know? So yeah, some of them comply, some of them with less enthusiasm. Some of them we had to approach again, and yeah, some of them took longer than the 30 days that it should be taking. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah. So this is basically this is the folder for the SARs in our project folder. That's in the G drive, so anybody can access them. And yeah, there's like there's one general one, the SAR template, and then there's 4 for a bit more specific requests. Next slide, please.
Just on the SARs made, were they all from Finland, or did you, because the course was online, did you have a variance from different countries?
Well, we only did sort of a coordinated effort of requests from Finland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, but definitely that could for sure be something that should really be sort of crowdsourced in a way that every person, I don't know, in ALAC, like makes a data request to one organization that they know. We could get an immense amount of data on compliance, for example, and I'm quite sure we could raise the interest of the particular data protection authority. And yeah, it's still the whole internet is filled with companies that and organizations that are violating the GDPR. So this should really be done. Like these complaints should be sort of more systematic and done in big numbers, and sort of all the results and knowledge about that, the processing of those requests should be shared with everyone, so we could learn from these. Yeah, and well, basically this was how the course looked like. You could have, this was sort of the desktop version, and the darker part in the middle was actually something that was in mobile, like it was only that you saw in the mobile. So actually looked pretty sleek. We were quite happy with the platform, apart from the login procedure. That was quite hard, but that was mostly due to allowing anonymous access. So you had to sort of somehow be sure that this is really the person accessing, even though they were allowed to stay anonymous. But yeah, I think I'm looking at some open source alternatives for the course, and basically it needs to be transferred. The data needs to be transferred to GitHub, and yeah, I think it's something like maybe 20 hours per language to move all that course there. So we're not talking about an immense amount of work, but it's still very monotonous and not something I'd do today. But right. I'm hoping to find somebody to do this work with me.
So I take it you have two courses, one in English and one in Finnish?
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, I've also received material in Spanish and Portuguese.
Oh, right.
Yes, and these should also be transferred.
Oh, great.
So we actually have it in 4 languages already.
Excellent.
Yeah. Last slide, please. Yeah. So basically, these are the resources. I checked the links, and they all work. And probably the most useful for people are the project Google Drive and the SARs. They'll basically have all the information that and the material that the course had. Some of the project Drive is a little messy, but it's still all the material in MOOC content can be gone through. Yes, MOOC content in the middle. That's one. And there you have all these modules, and you can sort of see they're all done in a Google Docs for collaborative purposes. But yeah, there's the basically the top one usually is the whole module in text, and yeah, as you can see, there's some still some code around there, but yeah, obviously that doesn't go into the platform.
Yeah, it's a YouTube video. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's embedded. Yeah. But yeah, that's it. If somebody feels like giving a hand with this, or I don't know, maybe working on a systematic approach to make these data requests, I'd be really up for your contacts. And in the meanwhile, I'll try and get this course back online.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. And I'm just zooming in on the last picture here, and I take it you're right in the middle with your arms crossed.
Yeah.
Right there, and that's the team that worked on it.
Yes, yes, that's the Open Knowledge Finland team.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, and in terms of people helping, we'll distribute this to our alumni list. We've have over 400 people that have taken our course, and you mentioned Spanish and Portuguese. It's interesting because we've completely translated our course into Spanish, and the first group is starting in September 13th, and second group in January or February, and we have again our English version of the course starting in September 6th. Running right through. And we're talking with the complete translation of the course in Portuguese, but not only Portuguese, but Russian with UNESCO, Hindi, Bengal, and Chinese. And obviously French is a big important one that we want to do, but all of these take time. But we'd be happy to work with you and see how we can integrate the material into we have our existing Moodle. It might be a great platform for you.
Right.
So let's see how we can work on that together, and that'd be great.
Yeah.
Anything else that people could do in terms of besides the course material? Is there any updates since you've started the course? Have you found some of these organizations being more responsive? What about the Who Is with ICANN or any other organizations that have your data?
Well, I think ICANN was forced to change on the Who Is. I mean, they did try to wriggle long enough, but yeah, eventually they had to comply, which is a good thing. Yeah, we've had there was very recently the first case in Finland about the GDPR that somebody actually got fined for it. And that was the first time, and it only happened this year. So this is like 3 years after it was supposed to be enforced already. And there are still thousands of organizations, even in Finland, who are not complying with the law. So yeah, I think they're really all over the place.
Great.
Even
Great.
today.
Yeah, it's difficult for a lot of people to get their heads around, but it makes a lot of sense. I know that there was a lot of reaction, especially from Americans, on the GDPR, but I think it's raised the awareness and on your digital rights, and it's a critical thing that people should be aware of. Okay, well, that's basically it for me. I think we've done well. I think I'm just going to stop the sharing and go back to our there we are. You look very comfortable, by the way.
Yes, it's comfortable.
Hey, so I don't know about you guys in Finland, but Canada has had a major heat warning, and out in British Columbia.
Yeah, it was like 47 degrees Celsius.
Yeah,
something crazy.
Yeah, which never ever happens in Portland and other places. A lot of these places don't even have air conditioning. They're sweltering. It's not so bad where I am. I'm in Southern Ontario. You've stayed at my place, so you know that it's comfortable. But I noticed a couple of people in the list of usual suspects we just saw in the picture. A couple of those folks I remember when we did the event at RightsCon in Toronto, and that was a great event as well. Did you speak at the RightsCon event, or it just strictly had a booth?
No, we had one presentation in 2019, I think it was in Tunis.
Okay. So if there's any other additional information, I've taken the slide and I made it as an ebook, so I'll attach it to the video, because some of those links, they're in the video, but in the ebook, they'll be able to grab the link and go to the Google Doc and stuff. And you don't get that capability within the video itself. So the ebook will be included. If there's anything else that you would like to share with me, I can add it to the YouTube channel, but what will happen now, this recording will get configured in Zoom, then it'll be uploaded into the channel. So all the videos of Group D have been recorded and shared, and all the students who are completing now Group D will have access to it. But not just that, every single alumni or anyone can actually see any of our videos. So, and we've had, actually it's 40 in the collection, ranging from on the same 10 topics. So not, you're the only one that has done GDPR. So we don't try to replicate the same topic. So we try to keep changing it up. So if there's gaps or individuals that should be interviewed or added, if you have any suggestions, please let us know.
Great. No, I will.
Okay.
Thanks for this, Glenn. And really sorry about not making it yesterday. I really thought it was today, so sorry about that.
You guys in Finland aren't used to the sun, so you got sunbaked, and you're a bit on the red side. So I could tell you're out in the sun.
I've been out.
All the best. Chat to you then.
All right. Likewise. Say hi to John.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye.